Okay, welcome everybody. I'll call to order this regular monthly meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees. We have a jam-packed agenda, so we're going to move right along as best we can. Do we have any changes to our full agenda?
Yep. Finance
I don't have any changes.
changes.
Changes to the agenda. Item number 3 is our consent agenda. We have abstracts for the month. General fund abstract totaling $144,190.26. Water fund abstract totaling $24,796.72. And sewer fund totaling $14,089.21, as well as meeting minutes from our April meeting. Would someone like to move the consent agenda? So moved. We have a second?
Second.
Any need to pull either of the items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, then all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item number 4 is our first public comment period. If anyone has, any member of the public present has a comment, please grab a microphone if you're in person or use the raise hand feature if you're online.
Raising a hand is under react, which is not always clear to people.
Realize they moved it.
Yeah, you just keep moving the cheese.
Yes.
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Vivian Rose. I live at 104 Pennsylvania Avenue, Trumansburg, New York. Tonight on the agenda is a request that the board consider a resolution designated July 2 to July 11, celebrating 250 years of Freedom Days in the village of Trumansburg. I had sent a message asking if you could do this like right now, so I don't miss the rehearsal I have to be at in order to sing in the concerts on Friday and Saturday. I would be happy to read it into the record and answer any questions. Whereas delegates to the Second Continental Congress from 12 colonies voted to dissolve political bands with Great Britain on July 2nd, 1776, with New York delegates abstaining. And whereas delegates to the Second Continental Congress from 12 colonies voted to approve the Declaration of Independence and ordered it printed and dispersed on July 4, 1776, with New York delegates abstaining. And whereas the Declaration of Independence was printed overnight with 2 names, John Hancock, President of Congress, and Charles Thompson, Secretary, by the printer to Congress, John Dunlap, and ready for sending on July 5 and 6, 1776. And whereas General in Chief George Washington received the Declaration of Independence and ordered it read to the Continental Army brigades in New York City on July 9, 1776. And whereas the New York Provincial Assembly, that was the rebels, unanimously approved the Declaration of Independence on July 9, 1776, and ordered it published with beat of drum, quotes, in Westchester County on July 11, 1776, which is where they were, and dispersed to other counties. And whereas John Adams, delegate from Massachusetts Bay Colony and one of the committee of 5 who drafted the Declaration of Independence, wrote to his wife Abigail on July 3, 1776, that this is long, so I'll just say he said he thought the second day of July would be the most memorable day in the history of America, and that it should be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. It ought to be commemorated, this is a quote, as the day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, meaning from New Hampshire to South Carolina, from this time forward forevermore. And whereas the 28 Revolutionary War veterans settled in the town of Ulysses, including a long list of names, and whereas Chief Taganic chapter National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution, founded in Trumansburg in 1921 to preserve, teach, and honor the patriotism of revolutionary forebears, donated American chestnut trees to the town of Ulysses and village of Trumansburg in 2023 to honor the 250th of the nation's birth. I hope we know if they're in leaf. Now, therefore, correct language here, be it resolved, Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees declares or designates July 2 to July 11, 2026 as celebrating 250 years of Freedom Days in the Village of Trumansburg, and further resolves, whatever is the right language, residents of the Village of Trumansburg are encouraged to celebrate with readings of the Declaration of Independence and other acts of commemoration in accordance with conscience, belief, and applicable law. I hope you'll decide to change your agenda so we could get a vote on this. These are signatures of business owners and others who support this. These are actual copies of the Declaration of Independence that usually it's used. Yeah. There has already been one community read of the Declaration of Independence here. Many people don't know what it says, and they also don't realize that it was news. So in 1776, people didn't know we would be standing here 250 years later in the state of New York, in the country called the United States of America. They just knew they needed to declare their independence. So reading this is how people knew about it. If they couldn't read, they depended on other people to read it to them. And we don't live in that world. It took quite a while to get different places. So I'd like to share this with people. And then are there others who have privileges of the floor? I don't want to decide for you. If maybe you want to put this off to another meeting.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Is there a particular significance to adopting this in May as opposed to June ahead of that week?
The significance is that it helps people have time to do something if they wish to do something. So business owners have time to plan. Organizations have time to schedule, to get together, to create their events. The permit for any special use has a 2-month window. We're already pushed and past it for anything on the window between the 2nd and the 11th, if it's a free speech event. So typically, in my experience from working at a national park where we managed things like this on a regular basis that were big birthdays, like this is a big birthday, we would have been planning 2 or 3 years out. So it's a big birthday. We need to have a party. And if we're not able, well, actually, in my view, the very best thing that we can do is to follow their model, which was, we're going to do this. These are the good reasons why. We encourage you to join us. So it took them months to get this out to people. And it took quite a while for people to understand that this really had made their neighbor into their enemy. And I, for one, am glad to be standing in New York in a country called the United States of America. So it would be a kindness, I think, to the community to say, hey, let's have a party and go forth and do good things. This requires no money from any business owner or the village, unless some community group comes and asks you to do something. So,
Well, I appreciate your work putting the resolution together. I think it's fantastic. I think this board will need to determine whether we want to approve it tonight or wait until our June meeting. We have as I mentioned earlier, an extremely busy agenda, so I think we're going to stick to the order.
There probably is a possibility for us to make lenience for people that wanted to, with that, within that 2-month perimeter, she said about our ordinance, there might be a way for us to do something about that. If people wanted to leave law. Or how to get to law. Yes.
So these are replicas of the declaration and it's printed at hand printed at the print shop in Aurora, New York. Which I will, whether or not you pass the resolution, I will be attempting to have readings of the declaration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you very much.
Any other public comment?
A public comment briefly. I just sit here. Okay.
We'll get to mine. Just for folks online.
Yes.
Okay, briefly, I just want to, I'm curious about how the zoning, situation that you all know I'm involved in is going to go. I'm curious to hear your comments, but I did want to speak briefly about the Town of Ulysses comprehensive plan. My guess is that the way that it's kind of gone is that there will be a lot of positive support for the plan as written, but I just wanted to suggest that the where they've put in for the medium density zones, I just want to make sure that we think that they're doing enough and that we're doing enough as village residents to encourage the town to consider housing as a major need and something that is extremely important, and that I don't know if the town board has any other opportunities to like decrease that from the plan drafts where it is, but I believe strongly that the village should support housing where, like, not let them decrease it any further because they have done so. From as the drafts keep whittling down, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's one of the things that I very strongly feel about how that plan has evolved, is that the housing, just, I don't know how familiar you are all with it, but it's very important that we don't let anything else be taken away from those housing building opportunities. So, thanks.
Any other public comment?
I just wanted to say hi to everybody. I've enjoyed watching you online. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate all that you do for our village. And it's kind of renewed my interest in the village and being a part of it. So I came to the meeting tonight to support that. I also want, like Jess, I'm interested in what decisions are being made there. I was really glad we're going to talk about the Bruce van, and it looks like it's some arch it's going to be. And the other thing that I'm wondering about, and I didn't see it on here, although I've been skimming, is the Three Falls, where we are with that. And is there any volunteer opportunities or anything? But that's it. Just wanted to say hi. Thank you for your work.
Any other public comments? All right, hearing none, we will move on to item number 5, which is reports from this board. Three Falls. Okay, our meetings are the first Thursday of every month at 9:30 right here. That's the meetings of the Three Falls Local Development Corporation. I won't go into a lot of detail. There's a lot going on. State Parks closed on the acquisition of the property in September of 2024. Three Falls LDC has been the licensee to operate the park ever since. It only received its official name this January. It is open to the public for passive use only. So that means biking, anything you can do with your own 2 feet, walking, hiking, biking, but no swimming. And no event-based activities. All the buildings are shuttered. There are no bathrooms. There's no drinking water on site. So it's very much a wilderness facility at the moment. And that's about where we stand.
So did you say it's the first Thursday of every month
Yes,
here at
9:30 in the morning.
Okay.
So that's, we do have a website, threefalls.org. There's a fair bit of information there, including a draft concept plan for what the park is hopefully going to look like eventually, once we secure funding to do projects. The only other item I have that's not already on the agenda, our second meeting this month is Memorial Day, so we will go ahead and not hold a meeting that night.
Of all the months with so much agenda.
With so much agenda, we don't have a second meeting. And with that, we'll move on to fire, Marcia.
Okay, we were light this month, 38 calls, which that's not bad. No weather events. Nobody got flooded out. That's good. Just a reminder that the banquet for officers is June 5th at Teganic Farms. And then I do have in the Dropbox, thanks, Jess, is an invoice for our turnout gear. 8 sets of turnout gear, and hold on to your hats. The total is $30,384. And I'd like to move approval to pay that. That invoice will come in June.
We're going to approve the purchase.
Hmm,
We're going to approve
Approve
purchase.
the purchase, yes.
I'll second.
Comments or questions on turnout gear? Turnout gear has a shelf life,
Yes.
for those who weren't aware,
Price tag.
and a price tag.
And unfortunately, with a lot of things, there's only one place where you can procure these
How many?
eight. Mm-hmm,
That's actually-
yeah.
Other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the purchase of 8 new sets of turnout gear, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions?
And that's all I have.
Good. EMS, Youth Street Tree Advisory Committee.
So let's start with the EMS calls, 14 to the town of Covert, 8 to the town of Hector, 3 to Interlaken, 2 to the city of Ithaca, 1 to the town of Ithaca, 3 to the town of Mecklenburg, 3 to Ovid, 32 to the village, and 20 to the town of Ulysses. Total of 86, which is fairly normal. I would expect it.
Light, actually.
Yeah, I would expect it to go back up a little bit in the summertime and get back. That's running probably a little bit under our average, but within normal ranges. Other than that, the big news on the EMS front is the addition of Michelle Wright. I have not been super plugged in there because, as I mentioned last month, I've got really not plugged into much of anything lately. But she's been sending out regular updates and it appears to be going very, very well. I mean, from my perspective, and Rodden and Jess, feel free to chime in. My read is that she is exactly the right person for the right job, which is a rare combination that seems to be, brings me great optimism. So that is, I think, a huge advancement, and we'll see how that develops moving forward. But that's all I have. There's nothing really on youth or pre, so I'll keep it short.
Okay, very good. Less short, DPW, water, sewer, CPZR, and farmers market.
You know it's gonna be long when you hear it.
All right, yes, we will see how we move this along. Let's start with actually something that is not even on the agenda. It looks like under my report is a dump truck. So we have been budgeting for a dump truck starting for next budget year. We Dusty and Clint went and looked at a dump truck, and I'll let them say a bit more, but It's a year or two old model, but it's still kind of new on the lot. It's a great deal. And so we're trying to have a conversation tonight about how we might purchase that, noticing that we're still a few weeks away from the next fiscal year. And that we are in a spot where we will get reimbursed by CHIPS funds for this, but it is $155,000. So it's not a small amount to float. And that causes some constraints on how we kind of actually find the money in the short term while we wait for CHIPS reimbursement. So I figured I'd start with just a short update from you guys of kind of the why we're going with a larger dump and a little bit about this particular one. Then we can try and talk through how we actually might purchase said dump truck.
Okay.
Can I get you to use the mic? Yeah.
So currently we have the two 550s, which are a medium small truck. We're only legal to carry somewhere around 3 to 3.5 ton in the bed. So when we're doing blacktop patching, or hauling stone, we're usually trying to be around 5 ton. So the larger truck is legal at 8 ton. It might be a little bit more depending on the curb weight, I guess. So we're looking at a bigger truck. We can use 100% chips for this, so we get reimbursed within 3 months, or we might actually get reimbursed sooner than 3 months, depending on the quarterly payout from the state, which we can find out pretty easily. So like Ben said, this is a brand new truck. It's a 2025 leftover. Right now, if you order the same truck, it's 15 to 20,000 more. But it's still full warranty, red on red, big shiny chrome wheels, chrome bumper. It's a great deal on the truck. We didn't think that we would be able to afford this truck before we went to this dealership. It's a much nicer, it's a Kenworth, it's a much nicer truck than some of these other ones that we were looking at. So with chips, we have to keep it for 10 years, no matter what. So 10 years from now is a long time to worry about resale, but the research that we've done on it, this truck will have far better resale and shelf life than some of the other brands we looked at. So
What would the delivery date be?
as soon as tomorrow. I mean, they're trying to sell it, so they've been calling some of their surrounding municipalities to see if they buy it. It's hard because for us, we just need a dump truck. We don't need anything. It's got power windows, but that was our big thing we wanted was power windows. So when you're ordering a dump truck as a plow truck or a salter, there are way more things you have to order and spec on it. So it is on the lot, built, ready to go. He can hold it for 2 weeks, I believe is what they said, 2 weeks. So.
If we get
Mhm.
hold it for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So I know, Jess, you looked into a lot of this. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we can pay for it now as long as we don't put it into use until June 1st. Was that the understanding? And that we would use temporary funds from reserves that we would pay back from chips once the payment comes in. So that was my understanding of how, from Dwayne's perspective, it would work financially.
Which doesn't require a referendum use, or it just needs the board to recognize that, or to say it's okay to. Yeah, make a bridge loan from reserves and then put it back in either when the CHIPS money comes in, or frankly, halfway through June will be liquid. To put back into, once tax payments come in, to put back into the reserves, so you'd be losing 2 weeks of.
It's a really good price.
And it was budgeted for, I think that was it, it was budgeted
We
for
did
in the
budget.
26,
We
27.
budgeted for it with the chips, and no matter what, it was gonna be reimbursed with chips. Just to kind of add on to that, the trucks that we've looked at building, whether that model or any other, were coming in 65, 170, somewhere between 165 and 175, with a lot less amenities.
this specifically, this truck's got a fancy three-way tailgate that we would never even think about ordering if we were just ordering a dump truck, but
The box on this truck was 37,000.
right. So it's got a fancy box on it that's, I mean, because it comes with the truck, it's amazing, but it's just one of the things that it's got trailer brake connections. Right now, technically, we don't have any intent or reason to haul anything behind it. If we were specking one out, we wouldn't necessarily ask for those things, but because it's on a lot the way it is, it kind of leaves us open to a lot of potential things in the future.
Are we gonna get anything out of either of the current dumps we own?
Yes.
So the 2016 F550 is up to be replaced, and so that is, we were gonna, whether we put it up for sale, auction it, whatever, and that would go back into reserves after the fact, whatever, once we can deem that of no further use. And then we have
I was hoping around 35.
yeah, it's in good shape. It doesn't have that. That's the one we bought used in 2018. It's a 2016 F550, but we bought it used with 6,000 miles, I think. I can't remember exactly.
We might have to argue about it back in reserves.
Either way,
We'll just-
so
Or, yeah, or right away, or like possibly do that later, you're saying? Or at all.
Resale.
Well, instead of thinking that Chips is gonna completely pay for this truck. Then
That is true. Yeah, actually, that's something we discussed is, right, if Chips is gonna fully pay for it.
Chips is gonna fully pay for it, then just depending where fund balance sits, we might.
Yeah.
We might have to.
That's fair. We can keep running the numbers on that reserve plan. Because this is the first time having this kind of Chips actions, so I haven't really thought through what the right path there is.
Can you remind me how this works? Is there a pool of money that we're gonna draw down and then
So-
run out, or is it?
So CHIPS funds, we get, CHIPS gives us money every year based out of 4 different categories. So we call it CHIPS because CHIPS is the biggest one. CHIPS usually grants us somewhere around $80,000 every year. We've almost always used it solely for paving roads, which it still requires the same 10-year lifespan. So if you pave a road with CHIPS, that road has to last you 10 years. Same idea with equipment. So starting 3 years ago, we bought the mini excavator we have with CHIPS. During COVID, we didn't pave for 2 years, so we built up a CHIPS balance. So specifically in CHIPS, Consolidated Highway Improvement, I can't remember what it stands for. There we have like $230,000. CHIPS can be used for almost, I say almost anything: paving roads, guardrails, vehicles that are going to be used for road work. The mini excavator was purchased out of it. There are 3 others: EWR, which stands for Emergency Winter Relief; POP, which stands for Pave Our Potholes, which the only thing you can't do with that is pave potholes. Legitimately, that's the only thing you can't spend money with, is to buy patching materials for potholes. And Pave NY is another, Pave NY is another one. Those all have a lot less money in them, but we can pretty much pave the road we want to pave this year out of any of the other 3.
Right.
And still have plenty in our CHIPS.
Well, so the reason I ask is I was remembering that there was like that buildup
Yeah.
that we were gonna spend.
Yes.
on. And so the question is this the thing that you wanna do? Like, is there anything, there must be a trade-off somewhere.
We're still gonna pave a road this year, which we kind of went through our list of roads this year, and we don't have any major stretches in the next 3 years. King Street's on my list for this year. The short stretch of Lake Street heading up to where they paved for the new bridge is on my list, but that's short. Everything else right now is really in pretty good shape. So
We get really lucky because we can't own a bridge, so we don't have to save up for these multi-million-dollar projects.
So we don't have a lot on my list of things that are going to need to be purchased or whatever funded in the near future. So
there isn't a trade-off. Is that?
no, not really. I mean,
Okay.
we have the funds right now. Again, between the 4 And they tell us every year, well, we don't know whether Pave NY is gonna continue. We don't know whether EWR is gonna continue. So, you know, spend the money out of it, don't save it. So we say, okay, but every year they continue to fund it. I think EWR is the one that they said was supposed to run out back in 2020, and they still continue to fund it every year. So,
But we're not getting this and therefore not getting a plow or something. like that.
correct.
This is just.
We have no interest in buying a plow or a salter for this truck.
No, I mean.
But even,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Very good.
Not short, so.
yeah.
Very good.
Comments or questions for Dusty or Clint?
So then for us to discuss, I'll just move that we approve this quote for $155,000 for a new dump truck. With the understanding that I don't know if this is part of the resolution directly, but understanding that we would be making a bridge loan from reserves to fund that while we wait for CHIPS reimbursement. Then we can discuss if we, yeah, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Other comments or questions?
Seems fairly straightforward. Where do we store it until?
Yeah, I'll leave it up to you all to figure out how to not use it till June 1st.
It's gonna be tough. You gotta hide the keys.
It's only two of us can legally drive it right now, so. Two of my newer employees have to get their CDLs. So I think for the time being, it can be, I don't know, like, well, if they don't want to try to just in the water. Yeah, well, we had to leave the shoulder. We can keep it stored until June 1 at the very.
You're not gonna have much room over there.
I had heard
Much longer.
rumors. It's a good problem. I had heard rumors. Good problem.
Stick around later, like to find out.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Board? Hearing none, then all in favor of approving the purchase quote for a new dump truck, please say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed, any abstentions? Next up.
All right. Actually, so the next one I had up, and I do like that both Dusty and Clint are here to discuss Brickfield options, but in the interest of time, it is not, I don't think, particularly pressing. Is that a kind of thing that if we push this to next month,
That's fine.
would that work out for you guys? Because I could just see it being a larger conversation because it's going to take some kind of thinking and deliberating here. I will just tee it up briefly to say that there is an item in the Dropbox where I asked Clint and Dusty to look through different options for what we can do with the brick fields at our main street that are sinking in many different locations. Due to the power of AI, we have a bunch of really fun, different images of what may or may not be possible there, with some kind of trade-offs for us to consider. So if you haven't taken a look, take some time between now and next month to think through what you might be interested in seeing us do there. There's obviously cost trade-offs and maintenance trade-offs and so forth. And we can have that conversation, but we can just postpone that till next month. So then with that said, I'll jump over to sewer purchases. I'm trying to see if. Yeah, okay, so there are two documents in the Dropbox, one from Aqualogics, one from Kester. In talking with Dusty and then with Camden, who run our wastewater treatment plant, we're actually gonna push the Kester one until next month. So we won't have to talk about that tonight. But the Aqualogics quote is for DO analyzers. We need to replace them at the sewer plant. And so the conversation would be to approve this quote for $20,825 to replace a number of DO, I think 2 DO dissolved oxygen DO analyzers, and that would be a permissive referendum coming from reserve for a repair reserve for a wastewater treatment plant. So I'll move that. Second. If there's any questions, I'm sure Dusty might be able to say more, but just pieces need to be replaced.
What is a DO analyzer?
Dissolved oxygen. Or how?
The biggest, from what little bit I understand of it from Jeremy, is that the analyzers have there's a screen that's part of it, and it's so sun faded that they can't read it anymore. And that's where Aqualogics comes in, it's their screen technology display, which they're do all our displays with water. This one happens to be out in the open, and so so they're getting new ones and then some kind of shield to keep the sun fading again, which are what a DO analyzer is I don't really know.
How much oxygen you got in the
I
water?
guess, yeah.
It's wild.
I don't have my supervisor.
That's all right. Some questions you maybe don't want to
No,
know too much about.
It's a really cool field trip though.
It is. This time it is very interesting, but.
And it should be said with all these things, Aqualogics is typically our sole provider, and so we have the one quote.
These would have been installed in the retrofit, in what, 17,
Yeah.
9 years old? Other questions? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor of approving the purchase, subject to permissive referendum of new DO analyzers, please say aye.
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 Scanning my, like,
Any abstentions? Okay.
Great. Can you pass, Dusty, can you pass that along to them?
Yeah.
Thank you. Then following along on the sewer plant, actually, I'll sneak another one in. There are more documents at the bottom of the Dropbox called sewer. And so there is understandably quite a push right now for strengthening cybersecurity in utilities, water and sewer. And so Camden has reached out to us asking if we'd be interested in them applying for a grant from New York State on our behalf to improve cybersecurity protections at the sewer plant. And so I asked them to go ahead with that, and they have done so. And so the action here would be to authorize Rorden to sign for the submission for that grant. They're looking to, they keep kind of going back and forth on how much they're looking for. I think the latest was $25,000. Not sure what the max you can approve for, but that's their sense on what it would. I think it's a little bit on the high end, but they're looking for, if we get all that, great. And if we don't get all of it, we'll figure out something else. But their approach to improving security at the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
I will move that.
second,
Questions? Hearing none, all in favor of authorizing me to sign the application for the strengthening essential cybersecurity for utilities and resiliency enhancement program, please say aye.
Aye.
That does spell secure for everyone following along.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay.
Say,
The mining layers.
yeah, I will put that in there too. Then one thing that is another bit of a conversation, hopefully not too terribly much. Jess and I, did this get in here?
I didn't put the outline.
Okay, I can just talk us through it. We've been working on setting up some policy for how we ensure that we can fix or upgrade water meters and water readers over time. We have not many, but there are some in the village or within our water system where the meter itself is just broken. And we have tried to contact the homeowner, tried to get access to replace it, have not been able to do so. We continue to estimate a water usage based on historic water usage, but that becomes less and less accurate over time, obviously. It's a manageable situation for a number of months or so, but not longer periods of time. We're also moving into a period where we are looking to over the next couple of years replace all of the water readers with, from the radio read where we have to be kind of within some amount of physical proximity from, you know, the distance of the road to the house or so, to cellular reads where they will be continuously every couple of hours or so reporting back to a cellular reader location so people can get more accurate kind of up to the day or half day sort of situation readings, which will be great for people who want to see if there's maybe a water leak or something that happens dramatically in their system. It also reduces a lot of the burden of the DPW just driving around in circles trying to read everyone's meters. But that will again require us to get access to everybody's water meter at some point. So in working through that, we wanted to kind of have a brief conversation here. I think kind of two parts to it. One is a time schedule for kind of escalating to some sort of larger moment, and then what that larger moment is. So maybe we'll start with the larger moment. Up until now, there really hasn't been a stick or a carrot for people to let us in. And so I think basically the thing we're proposing here is that in talking with in Jessica's investigation, I think I talked with Guy too as well, that we can, while you cannot turn off someone's water because that creates a whole host of other problems, not only for them, but then it becomes, you know, a potential health issue for the house in general. It's not a good possibility. You can turn down the water pressure to kind of a miserable trickle to the point where it is still usable. People could still get a drink of water, but you're probably really going to hate to take your shower. And I don't know if you'd be able to use some of your appliances, maybe that sort of a thing. So it adds pressure. It's not a place I want to go. This is not like a thing we are looking forward to doing, but it is trying to understand some sort of stick basically in this situation. If over a period of time of trying to contact someone, give them periods of time, wait period escalations and so forth, we actually have something to come at the end. So the conversation is for this board is if that's something we're open to, and open to in both the case of someone has a broken meter that we need to repair, or someone has a reader head that we need to upgrade. And those could be two different paths, but for simplicity, I think it might make sense to make them kind of the same path. So
And we already have a policy in place. If we need to go in right now, if we need to go right in and fix a meter or do something, are they notified, or how are they notified?
Yeah, so this would be tightening that up.
Oh, okay.
We can do that, but like now it's basically Jessica reaches out, we send.
So you call,
Oh, typically it's a letter first,
Uh-huh.
and then there's email, and then a call follow-up, but there hasn't. So this is sort of saying, initially, there'll be a letter, then there's a second letter. In the second letter, there's more stick, and then the third letter is the final notice, and then the question is the span of time before you get to. We do have some homes that have not been granting us access for a couple of years. Because they're part-time residents, so there's a need.
Are they paying their bill?
They're but it's an estimated bill, they are paying their estimated bill.
So did Guy weigh in on fines? On the financial side?
I think we talked about fines generally. I mean,
They're trickier and have to be justified, but you can add a fine, you just have to he said you have to make it really clear what that's based on. Like, is it your time to do something? It was more the shut off, sort of mechanism that utilities use.
we talked about fines a bit, but to, you know, for instance, if someone's meter is broken, but the meter works, but the reader's broken. You know, it could be, well, that's $20 for Dusty to go manually read or whatever it is, but you know, to justify the time, but the price is mediocre. It doesn't seem like it's really going to motivate someone who is already not seemingly motivated to let someone in their house. So that's where I was kind of struggled with the idea of a fine, unless we can get to something that's truly punitive, but I don't know that that's really.
it's
the
tough if
direction.
somebody's paying their bill, isn't it?
They also get re-levied. I mean, there's a 10% penalty for each bill unpaid, and it's re-levied if they have small amount of users outside that don't pay any, but.
I mean, right when NICEAG switched to smart meters, not that I ever want to really emulate what they do, but that's how they built in the stick was like, if you don't want to switch, that's fine, but you're gonna pay this extra service fee every month. Which to me makes a lot of sense. But that said is perhaps a separate issue, right? There's a both and here, but
So we could very much go that way if someone does not want to upgrade to the cellular read, it could be, well, now it's gonna be $20 a month or a read because DBW has to drive out, or maybe it's $50 or whatever the number is. I'm okay with that. We still do have a number of broken meters where we genuinely don't know how much water they're using.
So the next question is, the functionality to turn down the water pressure is built into the meter, or you have to go and physically?
You'd have to go
turn-
to the shut off in the yard and turn it to a certain
That is
assumed
very
amount.
tricky.
Yeah.
And you have a quarter
Especially
turn, so you're
when they
just like-
don't always work well. Or you can break them when you're turning them. If they're-
And we have had conversations that this might be tricky in winter due to freezing concerns. So like it's not a great system either. But it is something that without it, we just end up in this situation, which is years go by.
Do you remember when they started the meter changes for the radio reads? Was it 08 or 09? Ten, because it was before 12. I started in 12 and they had already gotten a good portion of them.
That was our water commissioner, so it was 10 or 11.
I still have 3. 4 meters, 3 are owned by one gentleman that are still manual reads because he will not answer letters. He will not answer the door. He will not answer the phone to let us in. So this was a very, when we finally finished going around to the last, what I call the last of them, 5 years ago, maybe, the batteries are starting to go on the radio read heads now, which they told us was a 15-year lifespan. So 2010 to 2025, we're starting to really see that batteries are going. And these are the ones now that are a problem of like, when we go by with the meter machine and the reading hasn't changed from the last time, it's because the batteries are dead. So now we need to send letters out to say, all right, we need to get in and update you to the cellular ones now, which have now a 20-year battery lifespan. But we are still dealing with certain ones that have people were, I'm not letting you in my house, sorry.
No, I get it.
There's one other layer with the cellular read, we have to switch everyone over eventually, there's not like you can hold on, because we won't have a handheld either.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember if every, the $20,000 device is telling me that it's the radio. It's
It's all reading at the end of its life.
I mean, I'm okay with shutting off the water. I think the communication piece is. There's a lot of levers you can pull that we haven't pulled from a communication standpoint.
Yeah, so I didn't talk about that first, but yeah, and Jessica, you can jump in, but what we were talking about is you send a first letter. You kind of, and the whole way through, you're kind of saying like, it can end up here, so like there's urgency kind of baked in. Give it 2 weeks for them to schedule, and the ask is just to schedule, not to schedule anytime soon, and maybe we have to think about the eventuality where someone keeps scheduling and pushing us off, and that would be its own whole path to go down. Then there's a second letter with an email and a phone call as well. Another 2 weeks goes by. Then there's a final letter with an email, a phone call, and a door hanger. And there's an ask for within the next 4 weeks to make an appointment. And then at that point, it would be that's the earliest we could shut something off. And then it's obviously within Dusty and Clint's, opinion of if that's safe to do, if the weather pending and whatnot. So that was roughly it, and very happy to hear feedback on that. If we're concerned with specific wording, I'm happy to like share that out with the board. We can have more of a conversation exactly what those look like and how they're phrased and framed. But that was kind of the starting conversation that we had.
I think that's very fair.
Yeah, because again, it's like
Very.
2 months to just call and say, okay, I can meet you. in another
Right,
3 months.
you get a letter, then you get another stern letter, then you get a warning, then you get a tag, then you get your water shut off.
For us to change
But
from
not shut.
radio to cellular is less than 10 minutes. Right, you don't have to turn the water up to do it, it's one screw, take it off, unscrew it from the wall.
Yeah, I get it. I would want to hear something from Guy about, process server. Sheriff's deputy delivering the third letter. Something a little bit more attention getting, because people throw letters away. It's just, I don't know.
Or even just certified mail or something you gotta sign.
Yeah.
I would just want to make sure we dot every I and cross every
Yeah.
T, and then for the person who tells the sheriff's deputy to get off my lawn.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That sounds good. I know, and we were working back and forth with Jess and I in here before kind of getting a proposal for guy to review. So I think we can pose those questions.
That outline that.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I would add, I think that's like the right line of questioning. I would add that there's weirdly a layer of like compliance and assurance that we would want in terms of like, you have a quarter turn to make. I mean, I've done it a couple times. It's very hard to do like half. So you'd want like pictures or something, because everyone's gonna call and say, hey, you shut off my water, that's illegal. Right, it's going to be inflamed very, very
That's
quickly,
why-
so I would wanna make sure that you're documenting. That's another piece I would talk with Guy about, I guess, is how do we document exactly what's happening?
But I also think that adding a couple of these steps, including involving potentially a court or law enforcement. Gets us to the point where if they're ignoring that. Really don't care what happens to the pressure of the water.
Well, that's true.
So I
That's
mean,
true.
we want to make sure that it's well documented, but then we also take that's additional.
Legal steps.
Additional steps so that it's clear that this person doesn't care if their water gets shut off.
Yeah, if it helps you guys to have someone with you when you're shutting it off, that's always a possibility as well too.
The other thing that other municipalities do that Guy pointed out is you shut it off entirely, it only has to be on for a couple hours a day. But that's, again, a lot more work, but maybe it's easier than trickle, but hopefully no one's gonna do that.
Well, then there's a fee for us turning off and on your water every day.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're on the right track. I mean,
Yeah, I hadn't
Agreed.
done that for.
Okay, well, I'll flesh it out,
Yeah.
thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, then I think the last thing I have to cover here, which is more just kind of informational, there is a Moody's document towards the bottom of the Dropbox. This is our report back from Moody's, reviewing our water wells and concerns about salt mining in the area. I'll just say basically I'll read the summary kind of paragraph, the stand-up paragraph, which is to say that based on our review of the available data, it is our professional opinion that probability of mining activities impacting the village of Trumansburg's public water supply wells is minimal. This opinion is supported by the substantial vertical separation between the aquifer and the mining horizon, the presence of thick and competent confining units, stable, predictable mine deformation rates over several decades, and the absence of an upward hydraulic gradient from the deep salt mine to the shallow glacial sediments. So in short, they're not particularly concerned. They do go on to say, out of abundance of caution, they suggest trying to continue to monitor the subsidence. So basically there's monitors in a bunch of different places of if the ground is kind of sinking over time. And that's an early sign that for caution. I mean, ground is always kind of subsiding, so there's some amount of natural rate there, but if you see a large drop, that's obviously a concern. The DEC is monitoring some of that. I think Cargill's mining some of that. So I've asked back to Moody's based on all the exploration that they've done. If we wanted to be informed of those monitoring data, who's the right person to talk to and how do we kind of go about that? So there's some open questions, but that's something I can continue to trace down and make sure that we're trying to get that data and maybe have MRB look at it on an annual basis or whenever, every other year, whenever it comes through, just to keep a proactive eye on it. But in general, they don't seem to be particularly concerned. So I'm more than happy to largely call this close that chapter. I feel like we've done our due diligence and found that we are in a good spot. And then with that, I think we can end my
Did everyone have a
report.
chance to read the Moody's report?
Mm-hmm.
I read that paragraph. I didn't go deep. I mean,
I
it's
did
it's
not
it's
read
fairly
that.
dense, but I read enough to feel confident and good about it.
Yeah, it was fairly brief, which was nice too. Yeah.
Brief, but had good detail.
Yeah.
Was interesting. Okay. Police, join us.
Yes.
So Chief Nelson's police report, 238 calls for service, none outside of the village. Of those, 2 were fraud, theft, criminal investigation, 2 domestic disputes. 2 mental health. 7 harassment investigations, and then non-criminal, there was 67 property checks, 97 officer initiated traffic enforcement, with 58 being tickets, 5 parking tickets, and then 14 informational inquiry background application checks from Tompkins County. This is about the time where it starts getting busy as far as events for Trumansburg. So there was the duck. What's that called? Race. Thank you. The duck race that happened this past week. Then May Day 5K is at the end of May. In June is the Ithaca half marathon, and then there's something else that I'm forgetting.
Porch Fest.
Of course, Porch Fest. Most important of all. We did get questions, and this is like something that has just been building up over time, about parking in the village, which is something that we have discussed. I do feel like within the last 6 months, it has been more of an issue, and I think it will continue to be an issue. The conservatory is supposed to open back up in June, and they are looking to schedule a whole lot more performances that will make that side of the village extremely congested. As far as Porch Fest, people will park on the road and leave their car there all day throughout Porch Fest, go to friends' houses, and which is a problem. So the problem is that emergency vehicles need a way to get through the roads, and when people do not park off of the street onto the lawns of homes, there is no path left. And I've been seeing it more and more lately where people do not park. I've also seen where property owners have placed trees and bushes on the side of the road, which is a problem too. So I feel like we kind of need to address this in a different way than what we currently have, which is right now it is complete. All 4 wheels must be completely off of the pavement. And that is not how people park. Some people do park with just 2 wheels on the grass and off the grass. So at this time, what the police department does is they do side on a little bit of leniency, just depending on how much space is available. The truth is that the way that we currently have the law, people should just not be parking in those areas if they can't park
All the way off.
all the way off. They should be going to somebody else's lawn, which is also a problem for homeowners. So yeah, right now for Porch Fest, the direction is that if you're able to park as far off of the pavement as you can, you should. There will be leniency on tickets for that particular day. Like I said, I don't think it's just one day. It's something that is a problem year round. Yeah, and there is no shortage of cars. So everybody wants a car. And as much of a walkability, we're trying to walkability village that we're trying to have, people still need cars to leave the village. So I don't think that that's gonna decrease anytime soon.
Parking on the road also makes the village less walkable, I would say. I mean, there's definitely yeah. That would be my concern during Parch Fest, right? Because my little children can hide behind the car and then,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the one thing that I have seen and maybe we should look into is enforcing a different way of parking. Which might be odd and even days on separate sides of the roads, where possible. Because then there would absolutely be a way for emergency vehicles to get through any road.
Can we do designated parking like we do for grassroots? Like, can't people park at the school or park it and walk it?
Yeah, but
So there's not enough.
But they
public-
it's not can they, it's will they.
there's also not enough public parking. Like
I know.
there's space at the Trumansburg Farmers Market, there's space across, on Main Street. We don't have space anymore on Union Street. There's this space over here. But as you can, there's no line, so people park however they want to park, which decreases the number of parking spots. you have.
Lines are coming. It's gotta come up. Maybe on warmer, drier days.
Not tonight.
It's like a 10-minute drive time at 70 and like a 4-hour stretch at 50, so.
For this lot in BW.
Wow.
I mean, I'm happy to consider other options, but I think it would need to change the law takes, looking at probably 2 months
Yeah.
minimum.
I pulled it up and I feel that there's, on the positive side, it feels like there's enough wiggle room for the police to have that leniency, because it does say where that you must be, where is it? No person shall stand or park upon the paved portion of the street. I'm jumping through a couple pieces, but when it is practicable to stop, park, or leave such vehicle off said street.
Right. Where
It's not always practical.
practicable is the
So-
problem.
What is a word? That's also.
It's a word that's in this document, whether it's a real word,
It's an old word.
yeah.
It's like
But I mean,
conversation.
it points out the important thing is allowing two-way traffic and clear view of oncoming traffic. So like, I think if those things seem to be the most important part, but
But that's not what happens though. So what can we do so that people actually do that? If a neighbor, if one homeowner does not have enough parking for, let's say, a kid's birthday party.
Right.
And has, parent vehicles in front of another neighbor's house.
well, there's a whole conversation we can go down of like,
Right.
that is not your house, that's the right of way that the village has that happens to be the front of your lawn. People should be allowed to park on the right of way, which is in my mind, the space between the sidewalk or where it would be if there is one and the road. And I understand how people feel like it's mine, because I also feel like who the heck's parking in front of my house, but it's not mine. Like, that is public right of way. I wouldn't want to necessarily take trees out of it, but there's an argument that we shouldn't be planting more there certainly, because we want to allow for more of this flexibility. Because the
I would
alternative,
argue that's actually called a tree lawn, and we should absolutely park trees there.
I mean, so then that's a balance, right? Like, because otherwise, then there really isn't any place to park, and then we
Right.
don't have an option. I mean, eventually there's this, if you look out, what's the village look like in 100 years? I imagine some of these, and we're seeing it around on Wig Street, get gravelled in. They're kind of someone's extra driveway, but now it's also more available as a regular parking spot. There's definitely a couple of people that rent
I've
around,
seen the
around me.
opposite side.
In which way?
In that they do not put gravel, they put, like I said, trees and.
Right, and no, actually, you're right, you kind of get one of the other, right? Someone either uses it as their regular parking spot and they gravel it in, and someone else might use it, but then they're probably gonna be grumpy about it. Or they get off my damn lawn and they put trees there so that people can't get there,
Right.
which is
The
also,
best version is when you do both and then you kill the trees.
there you go.
I mean, if you
I
really
mean, I
want to
would-
fire on all cylinders.
I would support planting lots of trees just the other side. To like improve treescaping without removing some of that parking space, because it is a thing that otherwise, the other way is you end up just paving parking lanes on a street, or you can just make all the streets one way and then have lots of places to park. But like, those are kind of your option, that's your menu of options, right? I mean, this is why you end up exactly right. Like, you're not get, once you've got a space built out, like downtown Ithaca, you're not gonna just like tear up someone's front lawn to make a road, so you end up.
Right,
going
make it one way.
Well, I mean, it's not bad, it slows people down typically, you know, you got less traffic, like there are benefits to it. I don't know. Yeah, you do have that. But the thing that we're in right now is this moment where it's the birthday party, it's the porch fest, it's not day in and day
Right.
out. I think it's in some ways, this is the hardest spot, if you know, if you imagine that we had a lot more small little apartment buildings all around the village with less parking, all of a sudden you'd have a lot more people who are regularly doing this all the time, and we'd have to have more of a, okay, what do we do? Do we have even odd parking? Do we actually gravel in some of these spaces? Do we go ahead and pave that spot up to the park, up to the sidewalk now, you know? We don't need to have those conversations because this is just kind of only for events. But but we should think of a way to do that safely without having to kind of pave over a bunch of stuff and own more roads. So I don't know if that's two wheels off as long as you're not obstructing traffic, or like what the deal is. I don't know how to frame it. That's kind of a conversation, but I'd be open to those sorts of approaches certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I think for this summer, there's certainly enough discretion built into the law for the police officer to use. And then maybe we just see how much of a problem it is. We expect it'll be a problem. Let's find out how bad it is.
Yeah.
And then reverse engineer what would have been the best solution, short of turning all the streets into one ways with paved tree lawns.
I think I mean, the other issue is also, that, and this hasn't increased any, but there's been a few people that will come into the police department and complain that they received a ticket and say that perhaps the previous police chief would not have done that. Which is a problem.
There's a lot the previous police chiefs wouldn't have done.
I think that's everyone who's ever gotten to.
Which is a problem, because, you know, that does create tension with the police too, when people get angry over getting a ticket for something that they should have gotten a ticket for.
Exactly.
That we're saying that they should get a ticket for.
People also said that under Chief Fred. They were like, last year you wouldn't have given me a ticket for that. Why'd you give me a ticket for that this year? You know, I mean, that's like an inevitable.
Right.
It's just what policing is.
I mean, there's something to be said around signage and like notification. Not everyone recognizes this is even a thing that they're supposed to be doing. So like, those are different approaches we can take, but I also don't want to put a like no parking on
That
that.
wasn't signed, yeah.
Right, there's, yeah, it's a lot. Like, we've done it on a couple places on Bleak Street. It's not that obtrusive, but it gets more and more the further out you get.
I mean, I think more would be appropriate.
And that's certainly,
And perhaps on the other side, on that side, it's less visible where. I mean, there is, I think there's only one street that actually has signage.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Is there, I'm surprised that there is one street. I don't know that I've ever.
I think there
noticed it.
might be, I think I spotted one somewhere, I just can't remember where. But
I'm with Gordon, I think, right? I've never really paid attention to this. I do remember one year during grassroots. So I think it was grass, or was it Porch Fest? It was
I think it was Porch Fest. We got
right,
a
someone who came.
very angry letter.
Yeah, out of state, kind of a, felt very unwelcome in the village, which I feel
But
like.
it solved
worst
itself.
case.
They were refused to ever come back here, so.
Right. You gotta love self-solving. But that is kind of the worst case, right? I think. But outside of that, I've never really given it much thought, to be honest. Well,
I mean, I do feel that the pain that it comes back to the police department, if they feel like didn't have this leeway to kind of make the judicious decision and then had to sit with the consequences of a lot of angry people who might feel it's somewhat capricious or isn't well signed enough, or, you know, whatever their argument is. So I'm open to like suggestions from maybe from that perspective, but I kind of agree. Doesn't seem like it's the most important issue, or like sometimes the solution isn't better than the current situation.
I mean, I think the leniency is a problem, especially when you have somebody come in and say, well, you know, my neighbor didn't get a ticket, why am I getting a ticket? And that goes back to leniency, well, you know, explaining the situation, but then, you know, you can always find an argument in leniency,
What it's about, it's discretion, right? Not necessarily.
discretion.
I mean, but there is a distinction, right? We're not just being lenient right across the board. They're exercising their discretion, which is how they enforce all of the laws.
Or the police officer came by while your neighbor was not on the road and you were, and then he didn't get back around to, you know, that happens.
Right.
I mean, is there a feeling from the police department that they would like our direct support, that they are like feeling hung out to dry because of it's their discretion, or are they feeling?
I mean, I get complaints that, you know, I get the feedback from people coming into the police department with complaints.
Residents.
Right.
This has always been an issue.
So,
Back when we did the Main Street project, it was actually put forward that we put a parking garage in Trumansburg.
I've seen lots of
Uh-huh.
park plans.
Yeah.
Park everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should keep a close eye on it next month. Let the chief and the officers do what they think is best. The emergency vehicles piece is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
If
yeah,
you're blocking a fire truck, I don't think you should get a ticket. I think you should get towed.
yeah,
You know, I think if they have to smash a window to go through your car to get to the fire hydrant, I'm okay with that. To me, that's the kind of thing where I just don't have any sympathy in those situations.
right.
If it's, so that means Cuba Street, don't park on the side of the road, ever. If it's, you know, Bradley or Washington, and you can kind of sneak over a little bit, you know, so I think.
Yeah,
that's
you
where-
should.
And I
Yeah.
think that's where, the officer's discretion has to be used, and we'll see, you know. See how big of a problem it is.
Right.
And if it is a big enough problem that we need to change the language and then figure out a way to. I don't want signs everywhere, but. Figure out a way to make it clear, then we'll try. If this is the best of all worst possible solutions, then maybe. Maybe it's not worth changing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would also say if they're feeling a lack of support, that they want to just document things so that we can see what they're seeing. Right, and we can, I mean, I'm happy to support their discretion, so if there's a way that we could do that, that's felt more, right? I feel like we're sort of off over here and they're, you know, out there every day, so if there's a way that we have, I would be very on board to hear more about what that looks like.
Right. Okay. We'll do that. So more to come. I mean, so I touched on this last month. The school district is trying to improve traffic flow. So they did request that we do place, or we're gonna talk about it later. So no parking.
It's under new business.
It's under new business.
Okay.
And then, so I will be going to the transportation meeting specifically for decreased zoning in the schools, like to create actual school zones to decrease zoning on the middle school side, so Wake Street and South Street. And to talk more about that. Just because we have more students walking, and then those areas, they do get higher speeds than any other school zone. There's like no school zone. So people will go 25 miles per hour or higher on South Street. It would prevent people from speeding on South Street. Because there is more of a risk when you speed through a school zone. So that could help with the speeding on that street. But we will see. And I think that's all I had for police.
Okay. Clerk treasurer's office.
Yeah, okay, so there's two primary pieces of business, and then I have just a few updates, so. You'll notice in the Dropbox that there's the water sewer levy, so those are the unpaid balances on water sewer accounts. For village property tax owners, or property owners, that are greater than $250. So I just need permission, to re-levy that, so I need a motion wording from somebody with the language of a motion to approve the re-levy of outstanding water and sewer rents as described by tax parcel onto the 2026 property tax roll. So that document with the tax parcels and that is.
Would make that motion.
We have a second.
Second.
Comments or questions?
I didn't pull that one up, Joss. What was the total?
So, and this document total, because I did redact one piece that, one property that shouldn't have been on there, the total is 83,000. Not the 86 that shows, but it will be correct.
Yeah.
And that's higher, that's about 30,000 higher than last year.
Hmm.
Interesting, I will be seeking to complete a water financial analysis of the water program. So we can look at what we.
Are you moving on to something else?
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah. Any other questions about the re-levy? Hearing none, then all in favor of approving the re-levy of unpaid water bills onto village property tax bills, please say aye.
Aye.
The opposed, the abstentions. Yeah,
Yeah, so I will pull together because we should annually assess the commercial property or the commercial usage. And I'll work with Ben on that and sort of look at the whole fiscal health of the water program. These how much is re-levied, how much is unpaid. Need to get that to you. June would be awesome as probably so July. But we did just complete the last billing for this year. So there's that. Okay, and then I would like to. In case, unless anyone has any major objections, I'd like to sunset the use of Dropbox for this board, which doesn't mean removing the items that are there. It means shifting meeting folders moving forward, starting in June into SharePoint, which will mean you don't have to pay. It's much easier to use. I'll
Thank you.
definitely send out like quick start guides. It's really easy. You get there through your it's one click to do stuff. It's not all these steps to be able to open documents and move them. But that is really the archive of record for the, this is the Microsoft 365. So anyone feel any major, like, good God, please don't do that in June? Okay, great.
I hate SharePoint, but it's time.
Do you hate it less than Dropbox?
I'm ride or die with Dropbox, but I'm
I hate
gonna,
them both.
but this will be great because I'll get more space back in
I hate
Dropbox.
computers.
Here you go.
I'm excited.
Silver linings.
It also, we're paying 2 subscriptions essentially. I mean, it's a savings to not, okay.
So we keep having to pay the subscription if we're gonna keep it.
We won't keep it. I just need to move the documents out of there.
I see. So I would like to keep, because we're still using it sort of
Keep
vaguely,
Dropbox.
or
Keep it anyway.
we should definitely sunset the use, but we have to keep it for at least a little while, because committees and stuff, I mean, Three Falls is still
We can
using it.
move to SharePoint in June. Don't cancel the Dropbox permission, subscription without my permission.
Yeah,
Because
of
there's-
course.
I've got 19 years worth of documents.
Can we, okay, then I'll work with all of you who still have committees actively using Dropbox to see if we can help you not do that moving forward.
Can
I'll
I,
work with you.
can I add something to that while you're
Yeah.
working on it? If there is a better place that committees should be using,
They can have shit.
maybe we should chat about that because CPZR just works on Google
Emails.
Drive,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I've always felt was a little wonky.
It's a little wonky. So that's another thing that I just wanted to surface the concept of, and not talk in depth, but see what you all were thinking about and bring up to the next meeting. Use of AI and village documents and cybersecurity. And there's some things that it's foilable and okay, but if you're gonna use, there's a way to use AI that is part of our subscription. So I believe it's not Gemini, right? Gemini is Google. If you put information into Gemini, it's not Google. But if you use Copilot, I think is with our subscription, then it stays within the thing. But I'm just saying, it's a topic of conversation and it could get wonky, like someone with the best intentions wants to give a presentation and they're pulling all kinds of data from their department into now the world, that there's something that we should think about and use over linked to that conversation.
Well, that's good. If you're using it in general, there's always some place to check. Don't use my data for training, and that's the thing to check, but it's different in every setting.
We should all be trained on how to do
Yeah.
that, like what we're looking for.
I think the village's stance should be use Copilot. It's in our like setup.
So I'll email you and we'll see where we get with that, because I feel like that should be a message to, what, do we have 50 employees, like, hey, everyone, like. This is how you should be seeing like village information.
Yeah.
Like, should we even be working in Google Docs on village information that no one else can get to? If that
Yeah.
goes away, probably.
It never felt right, so I'd be happy to
Yeah, we'll move
slowly
forward
move it
with
to
it.
SharePoint.
That's great. So we're firing up the fire and EMS budget season. We'll fire up in June.
The
Thanks,
trick
everyone.
will be like having people who are not employees get access to these things, so that's what.
Yeah, we
we
can
have
do that.
trained in it, so
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, sorry, right, so fire and EMS budget cycle will be firing up for June. So I'll reach out with, I've got May, actually have May financials done for general fund. I just didn't get a chance to print the report and do that this meeting. So I can do the population so that we can move forward, right, with the idea that we want to meet with the towns in August, September at the latest, so that they can have their budget to present in October.
Alrighty.
I know, it's always budget season.
I know.
Fantastic.
It's never not budget.
So they also, let's see, the yard sale was great, by the way. I wanted to give a huge shout out to Jess Weber, who really took the village map. The people call in and made the Google really accessible, made a beautiful map. We had over 50 participants on the map this year, and more booths at the farmers market. 10 members at the farmers market, so that was really great. I think those are all my words for this meeting. Listening, has any questions?
Questions for Jess?
No.
Okay, old business. Everyone's had a chance to review Duran's sketch. Clearly an artisan, man who does not need CAD drawings to create his work. And I think everyone's okay with concept. We will need to approve or decide where from we're gonna take the $2,500 that Duran is requesting for the work. I feel like maybe there might be some wiggle room. Did we talk about ETC if we don't get banners?
You wanted to do that with something for a celebration with the 250, which I should have brought up in my, there's some, there's not. Why do I feel like there were some donations?
Where they went to Three Falls.
Okay. There's only arguably $1,500 of wiggle room in
ETC.
I'm gonna say the same thing I said about the celebration. There's our contingency account, right? The trustee, the board, I forget what we call it.
Much is in the trustee.
I think
for
it's
next year,
or is it 5,000?
for this year,
Is it
4,000. I don't know. Here, I can get back to that. Do you want me to pull together some potential funding sources and email you? Or are you looking to have an answer to move forward tonight?
I mean, it's a small amount, so I can approve the spend. I'm just trying to.
Figure where it's coming from.
Yeah, why don't you find me, he wants half up front, so why don't you find me $1,250 before the end of the month?
So out of this budget year,
And then the rest in June.
you can have 1,200 out of the TC.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking about that.
Okay,
And the other half out of the trustees.
okay.
contractual. In June.
In June, great, okay. Okay.
Do one of you want to give Duran the go ahead?
Yeah.
Because I'd like to, depending how long it takes him. Did he give you a sense of how long? Yeah, so we might not end up doing a ribbon cutting type of thing with the family until September, maybe. Whatever. Okay. All right.
I don't have any time frame. No lead time where except.
If you'll give him the go ahead and then ask him for a rough.
Yeah.
Estimate.
I'll call tomorrow.
Can I ask an PTSD question? I noticed on the drawing that it said paint. Have you all discussed and approved what that paint will look like, the colors, and you're all pleased with the full design?
So I have touched base with Karen, the girls. Her answer to me was they would like to range his artistic.
This isn't my decision, I'm just raising the.
All.
That is a good-
guidance.
Thank
Yeah,
I mean, it should be a single solid color.
yeah, that was my thought.
We have a pretty established farmer's market palette, don't we? Right? It's like that sort of off yellow, dark village green, and black because it's iron. Stick with that. Can you share that with him? Try and stick with 3 colors at max.
Something in that color wheel, something solid and something that you guys don't have to repeat it. Something that Clint doesn't have to repaint it.
Do you want to request to see the colors or?
We can repaint it.
I'm gonna ask him to say, can you give us a. Here's the color palette, and just pick one of those colors from the one.
We should also talk about building a thing in-house that Gary went out of used water main parts and pieces, it's like a bench. Not to take away from Duran, so, but. We had some leftover old. There's a bottom of a fire hydrant, so I so they're like a 90, you're talking about making a bench out of it, having like a wheel on it, you can spin.
Putting it by our shop there, it's the metal green. Island area, so. It was in.
Trust you guys. Well, trust you would know what Bruce would appreciate. So like that
Yes.
feels.
Yeah.
I defer to you on entirely on that.
Bruce is very big in repurposing everything that goes around, has another life and something.
All right, we'll let Duran know and then let me know if anything changes. Okay, next item of old business. This is the big one. Just by way of background for, I know there are a number of folks who watch this either live now or live to tape. It's been over a decade since the village first began to look for a solution to the fire department building being no longer adequate for the needs of both fire and EMS, both in terms of space and capability. You don't have proper hazmat decontamination, turnout gear decontamination, bloodborne pathogen decontamination. There's a number of things we're missing, not to mention sleeping quarters for the EMS staff. So we actually proposed a large renovation in 2016 for what at the time seemed like an exorbitant amount of money, all 1.5 million of it. And we held a public meeting about it at the fire hall, and the general consensus was that it was too much. And so we didn't do anything for a few years. COVID came along and we realized that we really needed to make some changes to how the two departments interacted, as well as what capacities and capabilities they had. We were fortunate enough to get the village's first ever direct congressional appropriation for the fire department. That's $3.5 million, which is waiting to be spent. We're not being nagged about it exactly, but we are being asked had been being asked regularly what our plans were. So as everyone here knows, the price tag for a new building went from about $5 million in 2021 to almost 11 in 2024. We scaled back the scope of that building from 22,000 square feet to 18,000 square feet, and the price tag was still over 9 million. So we, the village, would have to borrow over 6, and that's before we acquired the land to build it. The organization that I have been speaking with regarding possible land acquisition is still willing to let us acquire the land, but they would most likely want market rate. So for about 5 acres of buildable land in the village on Main Street, you're talking about almost $1 million in land acquisition costs. And then site work, drainage, water and sewer would be another 2.5. So we're basically pricing ourselves. We're basically pricing ourselves out of the Taj Mahal version of a new combined department building. So in the interest of not letting this drag out another 10 years, I have asked MRB to come up with the plans that you see available in the Dropbox under 6B, I believe, 6B and 6BA and 6BB. The plan is this. All $3.5 million of congressional money will be spent on renovating the existing fire department building for the fire department only. We will then build a new EMS facility for the estimated cost of $1.5 to $2 million. Let the irony be lost on no one, that that's about what we would have spent 10 years ago to do this first time around on the fire department building itself. But we will build a new EMS building. The needs for an EMS facility are much simpler than the fire. Basically need a very large garage and sleeping quarters, office space, kitchen, etc. ADA compliance and so on. You know, the fact that it's a municipality doing the building will make some things more expensive than if we were doing it ourselves residentially. But we don't need reinforced concrete floors. We don't need oversized apparatus bays, things like that. The only piece of land, the only property that the village owns large enough to accommodate a roughly 4,000 square foot building, which is what EMS will need, is at the water tower. Yes.
I hope this isn't too late to mention, we own a 3-acre parcel on Indian Fort Road.
It's not in the village.
It does, it
Has to be in the village.
We want it in the village so that we don't pay taxes.
Oh.
Yeah.
We pay taxes on property outside the village.
Okay.
Having it on a state road, given where our calls are, is very important. Joel has run a heat map of our calls over the last 3 years, and an exorbitant number of them are to either cars or the 2 junipers. So actually the water tower property is a great location relative to those 2. I think it will be, I've already started to have conversations with some Halsey Street residents. I think hopefully Marcia has to.
I'm all for it.
And I expect there will be some concern, particularly around the perception that it could be noisy. My plan for the building is that it will not be publicly accessible. This is for EMS and staff only. There'll be no public meetings there. Will not be publicly accessible. The main entrance of the building will face Hector Street, so State Road. I actually, and I don't have a way to know this until it happens, I actually have a sense that it might actually help with speed on Halsey Street coming from 227, taking a right when you see a large emergency services building, park an ambulance out front with the lights roll once in a while just to get people to slow down. Landscaping, street trees, you know, it's my vision for it is that it'll actually blend into a residential setting better, or more so than the existing fire hall does. We've Joel has already put together some ideas. MRB is working with some architects on kind of a, you know, think of residential barn dominium style look.
So it's not gonna be your typical like brick square EMS
No, it's not
building.
gonna
It's
look-
gonna be more
It's
residential.
not gonna look
looking.
commercial industrial. It's gonna look, 4,000 square feet is not small, but it's
Right.
gonna look, you know, oversized residential. rather than commercial, industrial.
Well, I think importantly, for those of us who started this process picturing, all right, here's the fire department, put it on, you know, like a new road. That is not it at all, right? It will be a driveway with parking. That is not, right? The look is completely different.
I have a couple of questions, concerns, just thinking. Every 10 years, the tank has to be drained and inspected, obviously drainage would have to be a huge part of that, because that low spot does not drain at all right now.
No, doesn't.
But also the water main runs right through there, is that also, I'm kind of under
That's
consideration?
gonna be something you're gonna have to talk to MRB
Okay.
about how to make it work.
Oh,
Because the alternative is we wait.
yeah.
We wait and hope for more grant money.
And prices triple again in the meantime.
And prices
Hope the
go up
prices-
3-4 times again.
Hope the construction prices stop going up first time ever. I'm not really interested in waiting unless someone can give me a very good reason to wait. And it's a way to really, it's a way to really give both departments. The fire department needs and deserves their space. That building was commissioned in 1982, so we're over 40 years old, and it shows. $3.5 million will go a long way in that building on that footprint. It's
That
way-
part of with the grant money that we had to match it somehow, 3.5 million, we don't. So there's no. So all of it can be spent and there. What am I trying to say? Like I thought there was a matching aspect to it, to where the village had to match a certain amount.
There would be for the 2 grants we've applied for this year. So V Fire has a matching component if we were to get that.
Okay.
The LGE, Local Government Efficiency Grant we applied for, would have a matching component. We applied for that. But the $3.5 million is not a grant. We didn't apply for it. It's TORC.
Oh.
It's true congressional directed spending.
Okay.
So we've never received anything like that before. But when you read stories about, the airport in Pennsylvania with 2 flights a day that's had $200 million spent on it the last 30 years because the local congressman was good at this.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Okay,
Which is nice.
yeah,
Wish we could go back to that well more often.
and we can apply it to 2 completely separate
It can
projects.
only be applied
Like
to
to
fire.
fire.
Got it, okay.
Now, if EMS happens to be in the same building, wonderful. But the earmark in the list of earmarks, the earmark is Village of Trumansburg Fire Station improvements,
Got it.
which would apply to a new build or renovation. It is for fire.
And I think we had the discussion around it just would be fiscally irresponsible to bond out like $1 bajillion for a facility, to have our taxpayers responsible for that type of debt is irresponsible when we can do it this way. I think this is the smartest road to take.
My plan, we are gonna have to borrow for EMS. If they're still gonna apply for grants as they come up, there's so little grant money for EMS. Everything's fire related. There's no federal money for EMS. There's almost no state money for EMS. But maybe there's some state level member appropriation, which is limited, like the EV chargers is limited to $150,000, but 150,000 matters when you're borrowing 1.5. Doesn't really matter if you're borrowing 6.
This might be a down the road conversation, but have you given any thought to how we cost share all of this?
Unfortunately for the towns, we cost share it the way we cost share everything in EMS. If we, I think, yeah, I think it's it kind of is what it is in that respect. It does put some pressure on us and the towns to really kind of push on the string of outside mutual aid calls. we're spending that much more. And our department's responding elsewhere. It's always been a problem, and it's more and more in our face, the more expensive it gets. Other thoughts? And I have nothing to add, which I think is just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Only needed.
We're gonna plow over the pollinator gardens for this video.
It's gonna be a nice
It's
feature.
gonna do that.
Yeah.
You can move the mulch around.
So in terms of process, we have part one of seeker to go over tonight for the fire station. There's a pretty specific timeline that's been established since we have officially let USDA, which is administering the congressional money for this particular spend. We've let them know what our plans are, regardless of what we were to decide with fire and EMS. We told them we're spending it on that property, on that building. So we're in a bit of a specific timeline. We will need our second meeting in June to adhere to the timeline. The EMS piece, we want to run in parallel, but there's nothing to actually decide yet. Give MRP go ahead. And they'll start into engineering, talk with Dusty about water, figure out sewer, figure out drainage, and so on. So I'll give them verbal.
You want to do if the sensor valve goes again in the water tower.
I would at some point, once MRB has something more concrete in terms of design, because I do want to get input from staff and so on that. I do think we'll want to have a public meeting of some kind, just to kind of go over a site plan.
Probably a couple. Probably a staff meeting, public meeting.
Right, once staff has had their input, once we have kind of an idea of how it's gonna look on the site, what the building's gonna look like, I think we should have a public meeting so we can have all of the neighbors show up.
Yeah.
Go through some of that. In terms of seeker for the fire station itself. This will be just part one, which is a review of the project. We would be approving part one as completed unless there's anything we disagree with. And then we have a resolution declaring our intent to be lead agency on seeker for the fire station renovation. Part one, I'll just kind of go through quickly. I'll read the brief description. The Village of Trumansburg Fire and EMS Services have outgrown the combined existing facility located at 74 West Main Street. The existing facility does not have the required available space for additional apparatus, lacks proper decontamination spaces for post-call operations, and utilizes makeshift bunk rooms within the mezzanine that do not meet current code. The existing facility will be renovated to exclusively house the fire department, including approximately 4,000 square feet of additions. These renovations and additions will include space for additional apparatus, new single-user bunk rooms, storage rooms, decontamination suite, and a new mezzanine for storage. Minor work to the restrooms will be required in order to bring them up to current building codes. The project will consist of miscellaneous electrical, mechanical, plumbing, site work for utilities and paving, and all other necessary ancillary improvements to support the proposed project. For everyone not familiar with seeker, it's a bunch of questions with a bunch of check boxes. It lists other local agencies local, state, and federal agencies that may have some input or jurisdiction. I won't read through every question unless anybody wants me to. We will not need to adopt local law or ordinance to do this project. Is the site of the proposed action within a local or regional special planning districts? The answer is no. Project details. It's about 1 acre. The site is about 1 acre. About 45% of the building will be affected. This is not a subdivision. There's no new residential use. There's no excavation, mining, dredging occurring. The action does not encroach on a wetland. There will be no new demand for water. Existing sewer lines do serve the site. The proposed action will not disturb more than 1 acre or create additional stormwater runoff. There will not be any air emission sources named that affect New York State air registration or the Federal Clean Air Act, Title IV. The action will not result in the release of any air pollutants from open air operations. The proposed action will not generate new or additional demand for energy. Will the proposed action produce noise that will exceed existing ambient noise levels during construction? Yes.
Love to imagine construction that's quieter than the ambient noises.
Let's see if there's any other hot button questions tagged as yes. Let's see. And so, unless anyone has any comments, questions, or concerns, I would entertain a motion to authorize me to sign part 1 of the full EAF for the fire station renovation project.
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions?
Do you know why we have to do seeker for this?
It's a good question. I think MRB is of the opinion that it's actually USDA requires.
Yeah, it's by federal money frequently.
Yeah, that's the real.
So it's trying to figure out like it's work, but it's not a huge thing to an existing building. It just
I had county grant money once that was like 100,000 that I had to do seeker for.
Yeah.
And it was wild.
while we're
Like-
trying to do seeker less at a state level. It's all just
I did, like the project was, it's just required by that funding. That's all it is.
I don't know if we'll need to do it if we end up borrowing. We
Yeah.
have money, but I don't know. But this is because of where the money is sourced.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving my signing the seeker EAF part 1, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? Which brings us to resolution. Whereas the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees has reviewed the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act full environmental assessment form, part 1, prepared by the MRB Group on the above referenced Village of Trumansburg Fire Station Improvement Project. And whereas the village board determines that said action is classified as a type 1 action under seeker. And whereas the village board determines that said action is also subject to review and approval by other involved agencies under seeker. And whereas the village board determines that it is the most appropriate agency to ensure the coordination of this action and will provide written notifications to involved agencies for the purpose of conducting a coordinated review and making the determination of significance thereon under seeker. Now therefore be it resolved that the village board does hereby declare its intent to be designated as the lead agency for the action and directs the mayor to sign and date the full EAF part 1. We just did that. Be it further resolved that the project engineer is directed to provide notice hereof to the involved and interested agencies seeking their agreement or objection thereto in writing. Would someone like to move that?
So moved.
Second. Comments, questions? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Terrific. Thank you, everybody. More to come, including our second June meeting. I think will be secret part 2. Let everyone know. Okay. Commercial zone.
Commercial zoning, indeed. So we are back here talking about commercial zoning. I brought this up now 2 months ago for our review as well as review from other boards and our attorney. And so we're kind of
You guys think?
Thanks, guys.
completing the loop here and then trying to decide where we want to go. So we do have a letter from the planning board in the Dropbox. This was kind of a late ad, so I will admit to not having been able to read it in full, but I did spend time with them at the end of April at their meeting, reviewing the changes and answering questions. My quick skim from their feedback here. I think parts of it are kind of asking just to clarify decisions, not to change anything, but just to make the words on the page more clear to what the change we're trying to enact is. The big piece of feedback that I recall from them, and there could be more here, but the big piece of feedback that I recall was that in the use table, there's a lot of uses that are now permitted by right instead of requiring some sort of site plan review. The intention there was that we have those permitted by right are very small. So like a very small sort of restaurant, maybe it doesn't need any site plan review. The planning board brought up an interesting point though, that I had forgotten we talked about in residential. They brought it back up. The idea of some sort of streamlined site plan review. I guess the city of Ithaca also has something that's more of like an administrative review where if it meets certain set of criteria, there's a little more clarity to it. It could be something that even the zoning or code enforcement officer could review and approve. If there's at all any sort of concern on their part, they can always kick it over to the planning board. And so that is something that's still on the table when we get to the site plan review section. We haven't gotten there yet. But if we like that idea, it might make more sense to leave more things as site plan review now and then ease that off later than it is. It's a lot easier to do that than to open the floodgates now and then add them back in later. So I thought that was a good piece of feedback, and I've talked briefly with the CPZR committee about that. But I think we can incorporate some of that a bit more in. In talking with our attorney, he had a couple different pieces of feedback. The biggest one I think was around the conversation we've been having about inns and wanting to really see a more defined definition. It's kind of redundant, but a more explicit definition. The terms the term mostly was centering around special events. He called out short term as well, which I think we're all colloquially meaning is like less than 30 days. We can just write that in. The special events was more of the detail and wanting to make that more clear in some way. What does that mean? What qualifies? Does a 10-person birthday event count? Does it go up to a 500-person wedding? Is there some scope there? Wanting to give more guardrails and a little less ambiguity to the planning board. And so I think that is something that the comp plan committee can also take back. So those are some of the big pieces. I have not heard anything back from the zoning board. And then if there's anything that anyone here on this board has seen, has questions about, has places where they'd like to see edits or kind of further investigation. I think the point here is to try to collect all of this and then decide what would we like to do about it. My suggestion is probably to put it back to the CPZR to kind of do one more term to review and kind of incorporate some of these things. But we can decide, we could draft something as this board and review it here. There's a couple of different options. I will say that while I don't think the industrial zoning is gonna wrap up next week at our next board, at our next CPCR meeting, it is moving much more quickly than I anticipated. I think it could wrap up in another 2 to 3 sessions, I would say, with that board. So there is some value in my mind. I think I'm starting to lean towards this idea of we aggregate feedback, hand it back to CPCR, ask to incorporate that along with industrial. And I can explain a little bit more why, and then bring that back in the next couple of months, possibly July-ish timeframe. And then we look at adopting the whole thing. The thing I've come to realize, I thought we could split industrial and commercial a little bit more cleanly. The use table is really challenging. The use table for commercial was an absolute mess and we cleaned it up. The use table for industrial continues to be a mess, and you just end up with uses that are very overlapping and intertwined because we haven't kind of normalized them across the two. And so while they're in different areas, and you could just kind of put your blinders on and say, okay, and here when we say it means this, and here when we say it means that, it adds a lot of complexity, I would say, to those uses in the midterm. So my hope is that we can continue to move kind of quickly there and kind of bring this all together in a timely fashion. That would be where I would lean. So it's kind of my spiel. I guess the question are twofold: where we want to go with it, and if there's any other feedback from this board that should be incorporated as well.
I mean, no, I tend to agree that going back to CPR is the right move. But I'm surprised that there wasn't any BZA feedback.
Yeah, I haven't heard any response. I mean, part of it might be that we have 2 members of CPZR on the BZA, so maybe
that's
there's
true.
just
That's
more
like,
connection there. We do now have a member of the planning board in and Sarah Kennedy on the CPZR group, but that's only just been the past month or so. So I think there's just less overlap there. I think in general, this was also not dissimilar from residential, where I think we had a lot more feedback from the planning board than from the zoning board.
But in any case, I agree. That's kind of the move. Yeah.
Same. I agree.
I mean, I don't want to drag this on any longer than it has to be. Obviously, I know that there is kind of a pressing desire to keep this moving forward for a bunch of different reasons, but I think if we can, over the course of the next couple of months, simplify it significantly by kind of merging those 2 sections together, I think it'll be in everyone's kind of interest.
Yeah, I mean, CPZR has become, I mean, you all have become. What years is?
I don't.
It's like it,
Become subject matter experts in all things zoning, so I almost feel like. This board trying to wrap our arms around some of the finer details is not an efficient use of anyone's time. I also think that there's a revenue generation opportunity if we want to have CPZR consult other municipalities around you.
Yes, exactly.
Process. There you go. We may have to look at that.
I
Generate revenue to the village any way we can.
I did between the expertise on the group, honestly, and oddly the continued improvement of AI tools. I am worried for planning consultants these days. We're able to do a lot. It's very impressive.
No, I think it's great. I think taking the planning board's feedback, seeing what merits consideration and what doesn't, and coming back with as close to a finished product as can be, so that we can move to the public. Public input stage.
And the other thing we didn't do in the draft that we sent around was the definitions were still moving kind of forward. And so we were able to conclude that before I sent it to Guy, because the definitions are something he obviously cares deeply about. So that's just another way of saying there are more pieces that continue to be folded in before we have a final hearing on this.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Any other items of old business? New business we have for our consideration, as we all know, the town has spent the last 3 years developing their draft comprehensive plan, which is now being considered. I believe they are having a public hearing on it tomorrow night.
Yes, the fire hall.
And so for our consideration is a resolution in support of nothing specific related to specific itemized recommendations of their draft comp plan, but more in support of their efforts. And I'll read it and then we can consider it. So it's a resolution of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees in support of the Town of Ulysses Comprehensive Plan update. Whereas the Village of Trumansburg lies wholly within the Town of Ulysses and serves as the town's population center. And whereas the Town of Ulysses has, over the past 2.5 years, undertaken a comprehensive update to its comprehensive plan, last revised in 2009, through the work of elected leadership, a community-based steering committee, town staff, and key stakeholders. And whereas this update process has included extensive public engagement, including monthly steering committee meetings open to the public, focus groups, public forums, a community survey, and a dedicated project website. And whereas the draft Ulysses 2045 comprehensive plan addresses topics of mutual concern to the village and town, including land use, housing, economic development, transportation, capital facilities and utilities, environment and natural resources, climate resiliency, community well-being, and the built environment. And whereas decisions made at the town level in these areas directly affect the village and its residents, and a shared long-range vision benefits both municipalities. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Trumansburg commends the Town of Ulysses, its town board, steering committee staff, and participating residents for an inclusive and thorough planning process. And be it further resolved that the village supports the town's effort to adopt a comprehensive plan that encourages sustainable and well-considered growth, affordable and diverse housing, the protection of agricultural and natural resources, and resilience to a changing climate. And be it further resolved that the village looks forward to continued coordination with the town on the shared priorities articulated in the plan, particularly housing, transportation, infrastructure, services, and climate resiliency. And be it further resolved that the village clerk shall transmit a certified copy of this resolution to the Town of Ulysses Town Board. Would someone like to move this?
So moved.
Do we have a second? I will second. Discussion, comments, questions, thoughts?
I feel like
I've only
we've talked
read
about the
parts of it.
slippery slope, and I feel like we're on the slippery slope right now.
Which part?
The idea that like us weighing in on town or county or state politics is a slippery slope is something that we have raised continuously over my time on the board. My argument has always been we are thinking, able people, and the slippery slope is a myth, right? It's not like, right, we can stop. We have self-awareness. It's a garbage argument. But I do find that we are here, and I'm very reluctant. I'm not sure what the purpose of a resolution like this is. Right, we can show our support individually. Not that I disagree with the resolution itself, right? I don't want to confuse those two things, but I do find myself very apprehensive about, like, is this the new normal? Where now if we don't have a resolution supporting a town endeavor, that we're implying we don't support it, or I'm just very reluctant to get into this kind of path of we're gonna do this every
I
time.
mean, I know it's late, but I haven't gone through the whole comprehensive plan either.
I have
So
not paid attention to the comprehensive plan at all, except in 2000.
my only
which I did
concern,
participate.
my only concern, obviously, and I wanted to review it too, is how much growth they're considering within this plan.
Not nearly enough.
I know, but that's my major concern. It's like,
So I'll answer Ben's question because I'm usually 100% on the same side.
yeah,
So I don't consider this a support of anything, but this is the comprehensive plan is the guiding document for future land use in the town in which the village exists. So when we talk about affordable, not affordable housing, but affordability of living here, right? Housing is a tremendous piece of it. Now, I can say they haven't gone far enough, but it is certainly a move it's a strong move away. So I don't know if you recall the 2009 town comp plan very much. When that was adopted, you had large landowners and farmers very upset because they weren't going to be able to subdivide. Right. So that approach moves towards never let anything be built, quote unquote. Not never, I mean, it's only a slight exaggeration. It's a move in the direction of no building. This is at least a move in the direction. And so when we talk about the Finger Lakes being the Napa Valley circa 1960 conversation, and things are just going to become exorbitantly expensive if we don't do something. This comp plan maybe doesn't do enough, but at least is trying to move in a direction of saying we should stop artificially constricting supply.
Right.
Since the
which we're
village
doing.
and since the village exists within the town, I think it's if it's on the slippery slope, it's way up high where the ground is flatter.
I will say
We're
that
not
there's
just sliding down the side of Rice Hill.
there is an immense amount of irony that this is the one that tipped me over the edge for some reason. Because this is the one that we are 100% the most involved in. I have the greatest, and most direct stake in. Fully acknowledge that. Just that it's the last in like 4 or 5 of these. You know, we support XYZ thing that someone else is doing. Is my objection, and to be clear, it's not like a substantive objection to the comp plan. Yeah, I don't know enough about the comp plan. I participated in the 2009 iteration. I was the clerk for a little while, so I know a little bit more about that one. This one I have not looked deeply. I've seen some sort of Facebook chatter. I've participated very superficially, and to me it feels very disingenuous to then vote and support it publicly, right? Knowing as little as I do, is my only. I wouldn't even call it an objection, right? It's more a concern.
I mean, how I read this is kind of like, yay, you worked on something, you know? I mean.
Yeah.
I think part of the line in my mind that's threading is exactly that. I think it would be also disingenuous for us to have a long, well-considered resolution that calls out all the things that we as a board like and don't like, because we haven't spent enough time doing that to make that sort of resolution. So I think there's a sense, I'll speak personally, that by and large, this is a step in the right direction from the amount that I've looked at it. And I think it is in our interest to support it as a village. And yet, having not gone into every fine detail, this resolution kind of finding that middle ground of supporting the process, supporting what they've gone through, knowing how hard it is to run a comprehensive plot process, having done one somewhat recently with some of the same people on this board. Right. There is a little bit of a yay, but it is also like, we see you. This isn't easy.
It feels like moral support. I will say, like it feels
Right.
like the political equivalent of moral support. Like,
And it's really meant to be more of that.
Right.
Because again, I don't envision this board, to Ben's point, creating a resolution that reads like the planning board's input on the commercial zone.
take their comp plan line by line.
Right.
But I will say that having read, I was not part of the process, but having read the draft comp plan, our current comp plan, the village's current comp plan, is a million miles away from the existing town comp plan in terms of what we see as a need for the community. This draft comp plan moves the town closer to the village in terms of goals and hopes and dreams.
When fundamentally,
And so the yay part is
Mm-hmm.
to say, yes, thank you for heading in our direction,
Sure. Right.
as opposed to running away from our direction.
and to be clear, we are talking about directed development focused around the village and existing nodes, right? I mean, we're not talking about opening the floodgates or undoing some of the subdivision rules and all of those things. I mean, there is a needle that they're threading. I want to be clear that I'm not like substantively arguing with their comp plan. I am not well informed enough to do that. I just want to express the nervousness here, and we're going to have this conversation again in 6 months. I'm going to express my nervousness then. This one, I think I'm all right with voting yes on, just because it does feel like moral support, right? It does feel like you said, we went through this process and it was a very grumpy time. It was like, why wasn't it a grumpy time 6 months ago? Why wasn't it a grumpy time a year ago when we started, you know what I mean? And I feel that resonates for real, but I do I wanna call it out, because we're, the slippery slope is approaching. And I think we should all just be very cognizant of that.
I think it's good to call it out because then we have this conversation. So.
I do appreciate you reminding me when my toes start to tip towards the edge of the Grand Canyon.
And the irony that this is the least slippery of yeah, not lost.
I think part of the support of this comp plan too is to get more visibility from our residents on it as well. It does affect the village, even though it is town of Ulysses. We have students that have
Oh,
to,
it totally affects us.
Yeah.
The school district, everything.
right. We do supply some utilities to those areas as well, so it's not like it's not like we're not part of it.
Mm.
And I think it's important to understand that also in the past, not everybody may have been involved in the process of having a more comprehensive comp plan as well. People that actually mattered, and it may have affected them negatively. So maybe supporting this will actually bring more visibility to it for people that have no idea what's going on as well.
Other thoughts? I will say one of the things that I've become more sensitive to is, as we prepare to borrow $2 million for a new EMS facility, is that the town is 40% of that bill. Yeah. So while this is the slippery slope, right? Telling the town what to do. But it's not quite state mandated yet, but it's real close. There were laws passed last year that require the county to come up with an EMS plan by this December. So, you know, if the town, any town, not just the town of Ulysses, if towns don't have the capacity, the tax base, the finances to support these services, it's going to get to a point where the answer is too bad, figure it out. Either at the town or county level. So I do feel that this is a bit of a yay, but also an encouragement.
We need to grow.
Move,
We need to grow and afford to stay.
move in this direction. We're not gonna tell you how far or how much.
Yeah.
The fact that you're moving in feels a positive direction is something I want to support, encourage, I think is the tone I'm attempting to portray. Other thoughts? If not, then let's vote on this resolution.
Yay.
Unless there are any edits that need to be made, I would call for a vote on this. All in favor of approving this resolution in support of the Town of Ulysses Comprehensive Plan update, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thanks, everybody. Just we make sure that Krista gets this tomorrow. Next item of new business, the lease on the vehicle available for our code enforcement officer is up in June, I believe.
Yes.
McGuire. So for anyone who's not familiar, years and years ago, our prior code enforcement and zoning officer did not live locally and did not own a personal vehicle. So we determined that it made sense to have a village vehicle available for his use. And that it actually makes sense, even if someone does own their own vehicle, not to be unnecessary miles on their personal vehicle for village service. Have a good night. So we've been leasing a vehicle ever since. It is used when the code and zoning officer has work to do around the village. Also can be taken to trainings. There is a proposal in the Dropbox, soon to be SharePoint for a new vehicle, which I believe, what is the current monthly?
233.
233. So it'll be going up by a whole $16 a month for a 2026
$17.
$17 for a 2026 Hyundai Tucson. I think that's four-wheel drive.
There was a late edition of, he just checked out an EV one, it's like 600.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's why I didn't mention that.
Well, I do think it's useful to mention because we now have the chargers, but then also the chargers are there for people to use them, not necessarily for
Yeah.
us to just be constantly sitting in front of. But I think it's something to consider in the conversation, but also the price is still.
Well, it does bring me back to. Right, I mean, I think the sustainability conversation, and now I'm not even remembering the name of the program. But was something that you had started that I basically dropped. Right, so there was significant funding, New York State clean. But there are funding sources out there that if we had enough run-up time, wanted to get an EV, like if police want to do that. There are funding sources out there that we could pursue with enough time in advance.
We should talk about.
Yeah,
Maybe
how
next
long-
time.
Yeah.
I'm kind of leaning that way, but I'm wondering what's the length of this lease?
3 years.
3 years, right? I mean, I'd be all for approving this with a note back to our zoning code enforcement officer, to please look into funding opportunities
Yeah, next time.
next, in the year running up to next time, kind of a thing.
Well, I mean,
That's a
are
cheap
they
lease,
clean
200.
energy community grants?
Say again?
Are they clean energy community?
That was,
grants?
yeah, thank you.
So I mean, that would be the kind of thing that we could just have MRB put on their
Yeah.
brand radar. And
Yeah.
then if we get,
So that one's trickier because we have to build up, that's the one where we have to check all of the boxes over several years. So clean energy community, we've kind of missed that boat. But there are potentially
if
others.
there are others, I mean, there's nothing to say you can't turn in a lease
That's a cheap lease.
That's right.
early.
That is a dirt cheap lease.
If we got, if we got awarded money to go buy an EV, then
Yeah,
it's not, the buyer's not gonna take it back and sell it.
right. No, I suppose it's a good one. We can bring it up with, I'll put it on my MRB list the next time we see them.
No, actually, I think it's, state is making more and more.
There's definitely funding.
Funding available for various things. It would be relative to other grants, it's a low dollar.
Yeah, that's true.
It'd be 35 to 40,000. So then sticker on this.
Which would be significant consider the fuel budget for police or EMS.
Yeah.
The code fuel is.
Yeah,
tiny.
yearly negligible.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it would also be a good candidate for an EV, right? Because it's small. So
Both those
it's,
things, yeah.
Yeah, so the total capitalized cost of the EV is 46,000. So I mean, if we got a grant for 40.
well, and which EV? I didn't even look at the EV because I,
Oh, it's a Subaru.
right. So there's,
I think he's specifically looking for all-wheel or
Yeah, he wants.
a couple of criteria he's looking for.
My point being, we talk grants, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of
Yeah.
thousands to more millions, so 40, I mean. It's true, something out there, and they get it for us, then.
sustainability grants do tend to be more like they have a different, like, they tend to think of their grant making as catalyzing rather than fully funding. So it tends to be like, we'll pay a percentage of things. But you're absolutely right. We should keep our eyes open.
It'd be catalyzing us to get our first village EV.
They'll give us like 10,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, even if it was a 10% match.
Yeah, it's true.
And I've said it before, like, Chief Nelson looking for
Yeah.
replacing vehicles. And it might be a good,
Get him to drive the town.
If you can get a grant for it,
See what he thinks.
I would never vote to pay for an EV police car.
I think he found a shop.
it's actually cheaper than a regular vehicle.
Then
I think you should
so
check it out.
It is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should check it out.
I'll send you a YouTube video on the 2026 Tahoe EV Police Edition.
Oh, jeez.
Well, that one
150,
is.
150.
That is not the car.
It's $150,000
It's,
probably,
It's-
is it?
It's the car you want for your personal daily driver. It's
Yeah.
a different conversation.
I drive a 2007 Chrysler Town and Country.
So
And I
you
love
want
her. And I love her, and she gets me from point A to point B, and I can fit 25 bags of mulch in the back of it, and it makes me very happy.
and 15 kids. All right, so back to the code car. I would entertain a motion to approve the lease proposal for a 2026 Hyundai Tucson. So moved.
Which-
You have a second.
Which Michael signed.
Either you
Tom
or-
signed it the last time.
Well, it should be either you or me.
Okay, that was my question. Okay.
I signed the first one. Not exactly sure why Tom signed the last
Maybe. Okay.
one. Did we have a second?
Second.
Other comments or questions?
So there's 7,500 upfront and then the monthly payments, right?
I believe that's what we're getting on the trade.
Oh, okay. Amount due at least.
Yeah, capitalized cost reduction, so I'm not sure where the reduction's coming from, but it's being reduced. Let's see. Amount due at least signing itemized below.
Okay, rebates. And then amount to be paid in cash is 4,500.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
When is the lease up? At end of June?
Do you want?
Look at that, perfect time.
Yes, let's table this motion. I want to find out. Yeah, let me ask Mike to talk to Zach about that.
Okay. You're going to ask.
Or you can. She'll see him before I will. Then we'll bring this back in June.
Okay.
Okay, so stay tuned on the car.
Okay.
Clarify spend. Next item of new business is the garbage hauling contract renewal. 'Tis the season.
Already.
Yeah, it goes with a fiscal year. So due to, among everything else, fuel. The quote from Redline Disposal sees an increase in the annual service rate to the village. It goes up to $61,398. What was this here? 50 something?
Oh, are you talking about the total? Yeah, I'm sorry, the month in front of me. Yes, 50 something.
50 something.
5, 7.
Somewhere I think it was mid 50s, 54,
Yeah.
55. So we're going up 10-ish%, 10 to 11%. Much of that being fuel.
Fuel.
It will also impact the garbage tag sheets. Will be going from $6.50 a sheet to $7 per sheet.
Which is a county raise.
I will say that when we went out to bid on this a few years ago, the competitor's bid was 60 something.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, did we?
Yeah.
We haven't even quite reached it, so we're not close.
Quite there, but, and I think Redline generally doesn't. The garbage cans are standing up straight, they're not lying in the road, that goes a long way. Maybe on recycling day, you can tell that there's a different provider. Because one is in the voting, the other isn't, but it's too late for us to go out to bid this year, but I think that the increase is understandable and reasonable.
Due to gas.
Yeah. So I would entertain a motion to accept the annual service rate proposal from Redline Disposal for village garbage service.
Second.
Any other comments or questions?
And
Hearing
the
none. Sorry, go ahead.
And the tag increase is a county increase,
Yeah.
right? Because that'll be the first thing people say.
Yeah,
First thing,
It's the first thing.
it's county.
it's county and we still continue to not add any markup in the village offices for the
Yes.
mayor and the sports.
So just wanted to make sure that was clear.
So all in favor of approving the proposal from Redline for garbage hauling, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any extensions? Okay. V&T law amendment, requests from the school district. They're looking for no parking on Wig Street immediately in front of the middle school. So for those who aren't familiar, Wig Street from South Street to Truman is the villages. From Truman to the main entrance is technically school property. So the area right in front of the middle school on Wig or Truman, if you're headed towards the elementary school, is a village road. They would like no parking signs there so that people technically you can pull over and let someone out, but you can't leave your car, which some folks seem to like to do, which bottles that up. And then I think there'll be some additional conversations. I had a separate meeting a couple of weeks ago with the school and their engineers regarding stormwater from their capital project and how it might tie into our stormwater conversations. But these issues did come up. And I think there's a lot of, we don't have to decide this part tonight, but I think there's a lot of merit to slowing the speed limit down from on Wake Street during school hours. And then as well, potentially all the way down to the entrance to Compass Village Grove on South Street, all the way up to Wig Street, potentially slowing that down. So that'll be something that, since you've got a meeting coming up.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the 20th, which might be difficult for me because it's a Wednesday. But I'm working on that.
And so I don't know if Megan is looking for anything specific from us right now to amend B&T, as you know, it's a local law, so we have to make changes there. So this won't get done for this school year, but certainly I think it'd be a good idea to have this prepared for September. Both with the no parking and any adjustments we want to make to speed.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of foot traffic.
I'm surprised, I guess, that it's no parking because just walking this, and maybe you've seen it too. I mean, most people are just waiting for their children to get out of school and then leave. So would that really address the issue, the no parking, or should it actually be no standing?
I think you can ask her because she specifically told me she was in that meeting. She mentioned that people are parking there and then getting out and walking their kids down to the elementary school.
But they're coming back and moving their car, right?
For as long as it takes for them to do that.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like it was an issue at drop off to pull over and drop people off. I don't know about the waiting in the afternoon part. That's a good question.
Yeah, I went back and forth a couple of times because I had the same kind of thought. And I think that's the thought, is that it's not that the problem isn't actually people swinging in, dropping off their kid and then leaving. It's staying there for 5-10 minutes, parking there in the morning and then coming back. And that's where
Could
it's
there
coming.
be just an unloading sign only, unloading only?
That, I mean, that's the idea, is like no parking is the flip side of that. But you could say drop off and
Right,
unloading.
30-second maximum. I mean,
right.
what is the like?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, if people park there, then you can't drop off.
You're dropping
Oh,
off your
gotcha.
kids in the street is what's happening. Like people are like
So
literally
people
stopping
are,
on the
just like
street.
Double parking kind of.
Yeah.
So instead of dropping and going and dropping and going, there's people that are parking, walking down and coming back to their car, which clogs things up there.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
They don't go into the loop of the middle school, basically. So they'll drop off their children like on Wake Street in front of the school. when there's cars parked right there.
Uh-huh.
And what they wanted, the capital project design shows that gravel pull-off area becoming paved with parking spots. So it's gonna be curved and paved, and you're gonna have actual parking spots where it's now gravel. And they don't want people parking there, leaving their car there, and then.
Right. I mean, I get why they don't want that. I'm curious. about
So it's not gonna be a
Right.
drop-off zone anymore, it's gonna be parking.
Be for drop-off, but
Oh.
not get out of your car and leave your car.
Right.
Because they want it to be for drop-off. And I
We
think
want it to be for drop
we
off.
had even talked about saying no parking during school hours, because if it's a play or a basketball game.
Right.
They would want you. to park.
Right.
But it's specifically the drop-off and pickup time.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be paved all the way down Lake Street to the elementary
I
schools?
think it was just. I think it was
Just in front of the
just
middle
from the
school?
middle school to that telephone pole out of Sherman. Is how I read it, and I could be completely misreading it.
Okay, I guess I'll find out. Cause that's, why would you put parking spots if you don't want people to park?
That doesn't seem logical. They have parking
So-
spots there anyway.
It was only no parking during school hours. For the drop-off pickup purpose. Was my understanding, which would be misunderstanding, but I don't know.
Is that part, okay, back to like what we were talking about, traffic, is that. Is the school able to pave that area and put parking spots, or is that village property on Wing Street?
So it's kind of like. Your tree lawn. It's in the village right of way, but they can pave it.
I could see where they could pave it, but they can't put parking spots there, I wouldn't think.
That's why they are coming to us to talk about signage, right? If it
Oh,
was
okay.
fully on their property and it was no longer village property,
Yeah.
Wig Street closer to the elementary school. Is now school property, and they could put up whatever sign they want.
Right.
And the letter actually says, we believe that establishing a no parking zone during school hours. Will help improve traffic flow.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, I think we could,
During school hours.
But
But you're
I think we
putting-
could do something
Confused about
special.
between parking and unloading.
So parking means you are not in your vehicle.
Yeah,
Standing means you put it in park, but you're in your vehicle. Stopping is. It's still in drive. And you're in your vehicle, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, your foot's on the brake, but that's about it.
I mean, fundamentally, though, my position would be we defer to the school. They'll know better certainly than I would. Be happy to support them. I'm confused, but that's what
I was confused too, but I think it is literally that, like during drop off and pickup times, they don't want people putting their car there and getting out of their car and walking away from it.
right. That's
Making it dangerous.
totally just a pickup and drop off.
Okay.
That's what they wanted to use for during those periods,
Right.
and so I think we can have. That signage that says that, and
Yeah.
then we can have speed limits for when school's in session and.
Cause I was getting confused about parking, like they're gonna turn it into a parking lot and having cars parked there?
The definitions are,
Yeah, okay.
words are hard.
I was confused, yeah. I would say loading and unloading.
Basically, they wanted to make a loading, unloading. sign.
Kids out, kids in. Go.
So I think, so for your meeting on the 20th, I think the board is, happy to accommodate. Will have to be for next school year,
Yeah,
and then gauge their opinion. It'll be really kind of up to chief, but. What do you recommend? But gauge their opinion on speed on South Street.
Yeah.
I'm sure they.
yeah.
But there's also buses in and out of there, so they may have input on.
I don't, and talking to him today, as far as speed, I think he just wants. Whatever is best for the school district, and he definitely agreed that the entry to the, what is it called?
Schoolhouse Road,
Society,
Schoolhouse Road.
Historical, yeah, Historical Society is an entry to the school, because that's part of like what you have to consider as far as marking the quarter of a mile. the entrance to the Historical Society is considered an entry, so it could potentially go a quarter of a mile outside, towards the outside of the village, right?
All the way to Tamara.
Mhm.
Right, it could potentially go to Tamara.
That feels like that's a stretch.
That's a stretch.
I don't mind it.
I'm actually in favor of slowing cars down.
I'm all for putting a school zone on my road.
Yeah.
Which I
How about an
did,
emergency services building?
Oh, there, emergency services, yes. Now, that might help.
No, I think whenever the Montessori school was on, I think, is it KU?
King, oh, yeah.
So that is actually still on our law book, and we might need to
That's a good point. Should pull that.
amend.
Oh, yeah.
Start making a little list.
All
So if
this
you want
event.
this in place for September, and that's sort of making this in the end second June meeting language, July.
Well, I would say, Joanna, if you want to bring us an update after the 20th. At our first June meeting,
Yeah,
then we can start working on drafts. Timeline.
it would be similar to like what we did with Union Street. Which we had public comment for that,
You
right?
have to have a public hearing with me. And get the law. Okay. Last item of new business is, maybe I made it back in time, consideration of resolution designating July 2nd through the 11th as celebrating 250 years of Freedom Days. Didn't even read the resolution for us, huh?
Mhm.
Board comments, or of course, if anyone wants to move it, they certainly can, or we can consider it in June.
I think we should move it. We should have a party. Anybody that wants to party, can party.
Are you moving it?
Yes, I so moved.
Do we have a second?
I will second it.
Comments, questions, discussion?
So I am confused, and perhaps maybe I can jump in here, but I don't know. There's a lot, so the first like 4 or 5 whereases are fairly straightforward, right? It's basically justifying the 2nd to the 11th timeline. But then the following ones. John Adams and Daughters of the American Revolution. And war veterans, I feel like those are interesting. But like, for instance, Daughters of the American Revolution are somewhat controversial politically. I just don't know if we want to keep that stuff in there without a compelling reason to do so.
Let me see which. Right, timeline.
What's
John
politically
Adams.
controversial about the Daughters of the Revolution?
They admitted their first black member in like 96.
Okay.
That's the answer.
Okay.
You're asking
There's a lot more.
question. I don't have like a.
There's a lot more to that is controversial about that organization.
I mean, you can Google it. It's not like a hidden thing, right? There's no secrets about it.
I just wondered what was controversial about it that made it, that you think it should be removed.
I'm saying it doesn't have a compelling reason to be in there in the first place.
Okay.
So absent a compelling reason, that just the concern of that is
Okay.
enough for me.
And that's a good enough explanation for me. That's all I asked.
And Vivian, to answer your question, my chestnuts are not leaving out anymore at all. They lasted, I think, 1 spring. I was very sad. I was. Yeah, I just asked.
No, I don't want to jump into the board's responsibilities without invitation, so.
No, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
So these are things that tie this particular celebration particularly to this village and this town, this identical thing is before the town in tomorrow's meeting. The John Adams, and because John Adams is one of the 5 of the people who, the committee who wrote the Declaration of Independence. And because he's the only one of them who said, people are gonna do these things. And those
Ships on
particular
fire.
things, those particular things are directly related to how people celebrated the receiving the Declaration of Independence. So they occurred as people were receiving the Declaration of Independence the first time. The veterans, that's specific to our town. And the DAR was founded in the village of Trumansburg. So this is the local chapter of the DAR.
Is it founded here? The Chief Gigantic.
The
Oh, local.
gigantic chapter.
Again.
Oh,
Was
okay.
founded here.
I see.
They are the ones who put the monument that is now up at the Legion in a square that now has trees in it, where the hotel doesn't live anymore. You know, Gordon's office. But they also are politically active, so they already had an art competition for students that has attracted some. They are supporting the advocacy with the planting of 3 liberty trees that are a sycamore, oak, and elm in Stewart Park, along with 30 some odd Revolutionary War kid books for the little book thing. That's right next to the playground, and they are their chapter actually melded with the Ithaca chapter, so their members go from all of Tompkins County and up into Oakland. But the more important thing is that we have residents here who are descendants of those people, those veterans. These families are still here. So I said before, and I'll say again, we, in my view, are sitting together in the state of New York, in the United States of America, thanks to these actions that happened between the 2nd and the 11th of July. And our town was impacted by the actions of those veterans who wound up settling here. And we have commemorated it in the past. It was quite a big deal in 1976. That bicentennial was quite a big deal. And the 150th was also quite a big deal. And it's in part because of those people who still remember that, have family relatives who made that celebration happen. So it's not to say, this resolution doesn't say nobody else wants America. It says, we created, this thing was created, we are the beneficiaries, and we have a part. That's the extent of it. So it's up to you what you think about it, but that's the reason that it's in there.
So I think I would say personally, obviously, it's just my view, but I do like, I hadn't thought about the John Adams thing. I do like that, but it's like specifically, I don't know what shoes are or whatever, but bonfires are cool. I'm on board. But I would like to, I think, remove the 2 following whereases. I don't feel like those are necessary. If we want to have that sentiment in there, we could say something directly to the effect of like there are descendants of these people here. But I think to my mind, thinking about the beauty of our country is a lot. It's related to the like inclusion of people who were not there. Explicitly and intentionally to say, like, to highlight people who were there. I would prefer to take those out, and I'm not going to try and parse those words. But I think for me personally, you know, half of my family was there, half of my family was not. I am in some ways more proud of the ones that. Never mind. I just want to be clear that I think we should take those 2 out. I think they serve to divide rather than, you know, uniform. That'd be my approach. Other than that, I like it a lot.
Okay.
So there's specific, I just want to add that there's specific places in the village and in the town
where these people are buried. That could be sites of renewal and utilization.
That's great. And this does not preclude that or discourage that in any way. Totally independent things.
Other board comment?
I'm open to taking this out.
I also feel like I should say, just to be clear to you, Vivian, that I know people who are daughters of the revolution. I have worked with them and like helped do the chestnut thing and things. Like I'm on board. I think they do fine work. But I think as far as a public support and a public stance supporting organizations, we should be very careful about how we do it and why we're doing it.
Um. Not without getting off on a complete tangent.
Okay, let's just take this out and not waste 15 minutes of time over minutia. I say we just take that out.
Well,
And-
I'm not entirely sure. I'd want to take out the veterans part.
No, if they want to take out the other, that's,
I'm pretty ambivalent on DAR. It, do see the disadvantage of the honor and support of an organization. That's about.
But what functional, like what purpose does it serve to say that there are veterans that they settled here after the war?
Yeah.
We're not celebrating the war, we are celebrating the Declaration. It feels very
Abner's
yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, we really want to start wordsmithing. We could build it around the fact that had a Revolutionary War veteran settled here and
Yeah,
founded what now, like
these are the word parsing.
finding the
Don't
right
wanna
words.
place-
Revolutionary War veteran Abner Treatment settled in the area, now bears his name,
Yeah,
something like that. Well, although,
Yeah.
is it? You got that other. Oh, that's. Yeah, so I mean. I could see, yeah. Whereas, I could see us saying whereas Revolutionary War veteran. Abner Treatment settled in this village, which bears his name to this day. And then strike the next whereas and go straight into the now therefore. I think that's great.
Sounds good.
I think
Let's move on.
So. Whereas Abner Treeman,
I'll email it to you.
fantastic,
It'll be in the recording too.
which is so fun to go back and
It's just.
Hour 3 minute.
That sounds good.
I'm
I
down
think
with that.
I think that was very well.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, so all in favor then of approving this? Thank you, Vivian, for putting this together. Very nicely crafted resolution as amended. Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions. Any other items of new business? Any public comment?
Thank you.
Seeing no raised hands online. Going once, going twice. Do we have need of an executive session?
I don't.
Wild.
Great, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
If there's no objection, we will stand adjourned. Thanks and good night.